Hey, good morning to everybody. This is a Hyundai ioniq high voltage battery. Now, there's a big controversy. Hi, welcome to this new episode of Hybrid Solution Diagnostic. There's a recall that it's happening right now all over the news about the Hyundai ioniq hybrid as well as the Hyundai ioniq plug-in hybrid that is giving trouble, something about the power relay assembly that are catching fire. Okay, now that is something I've been working on for some time already. I even diagnosed some vehicles. So let me share with you guys what is exactly the problem going on with these batteries. Why are they overheating or melting, right? So if you want to find out, let's take apart this power relay assembly. Let me show you the real problem. Okay, so if you want to learn, stick around and we will continue that. Okay, back here in the lab. So this is the hybrid battery from the Hyundai ioniq, and apparently, as I see in the news, there's a recall from Hyundai. Hi again. Once again, there's a recall that Hyundai is making to, like, they're saying, like, they're claiming like 10,000 vehicles, something like that. Okay, because they're catching fire, or there's a risk that the vehicle's gonna catch fire under the back seat, and under the back seat is the high voltage battery, and they're claiming that the problem is the power relay assembly. But before we find out the problem with the why are they catching fire, we need to understand what is the power relay assembly and what is it that it does. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take apart this power relay assembly. I will explain you what it does. Okay, and then you will understand what is the problem. But one thing I need to claim, that is not happening to 2018 and 2017. That happens to all ioniqs. Okay, even 2016, I've seen it myself and I know what's the problem. So let me share it with you guys. I have a video about that. One of my oldest videos, actually. It was a diagnosing a vehicle with the P1B77 code, and the problem was the power relay assembly. Okay, I took it apart, everything, but this episode is only about the power relay assembly. Let me take it apart, let me show you, and we will continue. Okay, so the power relay assembly, this is it. Well, as you can see, it's completely fine. The battery service plug is off. Okay, right here. Obviously, I already took away the bolts from here, so I already disconnect. Let me show you. All right, this is the main connection to the vehicle communication line. This is the connection right here for the current sensor, and this one is the signal that activates the contactor, the relays. Okay, so once I take it apart, let me quickly take out the relay assembly. It goes out very easy. All right, once you pull out these three nuts, it will go. So this is the power relay assembly. But once again, what is this? What does it do? Well, let me show you. All right, so the power relay assembly is nothing more than just it's a controller, right, that closes and opens big relays in order to close or open a circuit between an electrical component and another. In other words, let me give you a piece of practical example. Battery negative, battery positive, coming right here. Okay, this is the inlet from the battery. Okay, and these two over here are the outlet. Okay, that goes to the inverter. Now there has to be an on or off switch, okay, that connects or disconnect this circuit to the inverter. Like, in other words, if you're turning on the vehicle, okay, you have to send the power from the high voltage battery to the inverter, right? Well, you just close these two contactors, and once you close the contactors, there will be direct connection between negative and positive to negative and positive outlet to the inverter. That is exactly what this does. But the thing is, you have to remember, these are not just regular relays. These are power contactors that close a circuit between two high voltage components. So when we talk about high voltage, it's not so much about the voltage, but the level of current that flows through this component. And there is precisely the problem. Let me explain. Okay, once again, this is the power relay assembly. We know this is the inlet from the battery, and this is the outlet to the inverter. The current has to pass, the voltage must pass through the contactors in order to go out from the other side. Let me show you. You know what this is? This is another power relay assembly, but this belongs to a Toyota. Now, as you can see, there is no such a big difference. They all, let me put it here. Yeah, it will be easier. They all have the same thing. They have a positive and negative contactor as well. They have the pre-charge relay with the pre-charge resistor, as well as this one, pre-charge relay and pre-charge resistor. Now, what is the pre-charge relay, the pre-charge resistor? Well, you have to remember that inside the inverter assembly there is a huge, powerful, giant capacitor that needs to be charged immediately when you close the circuit between the inverter and the high voltage battery. And once you make that connection, there's going to be a very powerful inrush current flowing from the battery to the inverter just to charge it. Now, to avoid an arc that's going to, we're talking about an arc or a big spark that it's going to form if you connect two electrical components with a big load. In this case, it's the capacitor. Now, to prevent that inrush current, okay, we connect a pre-charge relay connected in parallel to the positive or negative, depending on the design. So we will allow current to flow through the circuit, but instead of flowing directly to the contactors, it will have to flow first to a resistor. And that way, the inverter capacitor will charge pretty much faster and won't burn the connection. Want to make an example? Well, get a 12-volt battery with a load, for example, a light, some sort, and just connect the positive and negative. You will see it will be a small spark. Now remember, that's 12-volt battery. Just imagine if you do it with a high voltage battery. We're talking about over 200 volts. Yeah, you don't want to know. The spark is horrible, and of course it will melt immediately the power relays or the contactors. But that's not so much the problem. The problem is that those contactors need to be closed every time you start your vehicle. That doesn't apply just for hybrid. It applies for hybrid and electric. All hybrid and electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid, they use exactly the very same component. Different size, different shape, different color, but they all have a power relay assembly, okay, to close or open the circuit between the high voltage battery and the high voltage components. All right. Now, I don't want to extend too much with this explanation, but the real problem happening here is that the negative contactor, for some reason, is melting. And let's open it up and let's see what's going on. Okay, now to open this power relay assembly, I'm just gonna have to take all these little holders over here and open it up. So let me do it, because I have to do it. I can't work with one hand, and I'll show you inside. Okay, once they all pull it out, I can open the power relay assembly, and we will just see a bunch of bus bars. Okay, so the bus bars, for example, as you can see, this one, give me a second. This one in the top is the negative, and the negative flows through the current sensor, by the way, which is this one. This is just a Hall effect sensor, okay? But what is really happening over here is that for some reason the negative contactor is melting. Now let's take a look. Let me take it out. Okay, so what I'm doing is I just took out the main inlet from the battery, as well as one of the bus bars, just to take out this plastic separator. All right, and then I will assemble back all the connections, but with the separator, of course, because the reason is This is the main reason. All right, to protect any type of vibration and contact between one high voltage component and a low voltage controller, for example, as well as, you see, high voltage flowing from one side to another. We cannot allow them to be in contact. That's why this power relay assembly uses a plastic separator. So let me just assemble back, and I will show you the whole bus bars connected. Yes. Now, before we continue, let me remind you, we are working with the power assembly of a Hyundai ioniq. This one is in good condition. It's fine. But I'm gonna show you the common problem that I've seen already. I have diagnosed many of these vehicles, okay, for some time already, and that's why I'm understanding, and I want to share with you guys the recall problem and the risk of fire that can become from the power relay assembly. Okay, so once again, it's a good power relay assembly. Let me open it up. Okay, so the power relay assembly, it's ready. So once again, from the high voltage battery inlet, okay, it should pass through one of the contactors, okay, to go out the inverter, all right, as well as the positive as well should pass to the other contactor and finally reach out to the inverter. But before this happen, okay, before closing these two contactors, I will just close one, and the other one I will pass it through the pre-charge through the resistor to limit the inrush current to avoid a huge spark. Let me turn this back on. There you go. All right. Now as you can see, let me take off the light. Yeah, no big reflection. All right. So, negative contactor, it should pass. This is the current sensor, okay? The current sensor right here. There's the connector. You have to remember, absolutely all hybrid electric vehicle, you need a current sensor in the high voltage battery, so the computer will know how much current coming out or in to determine the state of charge of the battery. Okay, you can easily read the current coming out and in from the battery through any scan tool. All right, let me continue. So then the current passes through the bus bar, okay, and then we have a low voltage controller, which is this one, and all this bunch of signals coming from here to close the circuit and make contact between this one and this one. Of course, that's gonna happen inside the relay. All right, let me continue. As well as we have the positive contactor, okay, I'm sorry, the positive bus bar that comes to the positive contactor, and through a low voltage signal, which is this one. Let's follow it right here. I think it's the last pin, and they all use a common ground. So once I activate this circuit between this one and this one, the common ground low voltage, I will close the circuit between this one and this one. So I can send now positive, make the connection inside the relay, and then flow out to the positive outlet, which is right this one. So you can now understand how the current flows in or out the high voltage battery, but she needs to pass through these high power relays or contactors. It doesn't matter how you want to call it, it's just the relays. Okay, these relays are controlled by a low voltage system. It's a normal relay. So the relay, if you apply 12 volt to the relay, you will hear click click click. Okay, the relay is just simply closing the circuit inside. In this case, it's closing a high voltage circuit. Now the real problem is, let me show you. So because there's high current flow between these bus bar inside the relay, that is a circuit that needs to be closed, okay, there's high current flow inside. For some reason inside the relays, they are not holding the current. So because if you have current flow and you have, let me put it this way, you have resistance, the connection inside the relay, for some reason it won't get smooth over time, then the relay will begin to heat up until there's a moment that it's going to overheat to a point that even melts this plastic separator. So you want to see this? Well, I will link the video in the description. One of my first diagnoses of Hyundai ioniq that had a P1B77 had a pre-charge code, and the vehicle was not coming on. So when I took out the power relay assembly, it was completely melted. And then of course the relay was melted inside the connections. Now they were all melted. And then of course there's a moment, let's say if you have a connection metal, you begin to burn plastic over it, the plastic is going to come within the connection, then of course there won't be any smooth connection. So hence more internal resistance, hence more temperature. Okay, let me take out the relay. Okay, as you can see, I'm taking apart the big connections once again, from the battery to the power contactors. So I want to take out the negative contactor, which is this one, this contactor, or this relay. This one, I'm gonna take it out. All right, let me continue. All right, once I took out all the pins and opened it from the back, I am able to extract now the main contactor. So the main contactor, what it does, oh boy, give me a second, it's like even trouble. All right, so the main contactor, what it does, it receives a low voltage circuit. Okay, once you activate the circuit between this one and this one, you will close the contact between this pin and this pin. So what's happening over here inside, as you can see, it's completely sealed. Okay, you have to remember it's very high voltage and current that flows inside this relay. It's not more different than a normal relay, it just takes more power. That's why you call it contactor. Simple. It begins to melt inside. So it begins to melt inside, or I'm sorry, it doesn't melt. It begins to have resistance between, once you switch this low current, the low voltage, to close the circuit between these two pins. Over time, for some reason, it gives trouble, and there's resistance between these two connections. Hence, it begins to melt. So over time, it could melt to a point that could catch fire, because we have to remember this is plastic. Just burn it up. Plastic, yes indeed, it's flammable. This is the real problem. So we're talking about quality. It's a low quality relay that, I don't know what happened. There was a problem with Hyundai. I'm not sure with the Nero. The Nero is exactly the same vehicle as the Hyundai, but I'm not sure about the contactors, those contactors yet. But these contactor, in other words, the first one that came or that's given trouble is the problem is the contactor piece of crap. Okay, now, for example, with Toyota, you see the contactors from Toyota, they're original Denso. Be very honest, I never seen a Denso contactor in bad condition. Those are sealed contactors. Okay, even vacuum inside the porcelain, inside the where it makes the contact, it's inside a porcelain chamber, completely sealed and vacuum. So you take it apart and you open it and you will see it's as good as new. So it never gets overheated, nothing. But this one does. The connection between this pin and this one inside the relay burns out and melts. This is the reason why. Then because of this, because obviously this is not a replaceable part, they won't sell you this. They will sell you the power relay assembly completely. Okay? This is the explanation that happens under your vehicle's seat. The power relay assembly begins to burn out because of the negative contactor begins to suffer. Too much current can hold current, so it gives more temperature. So I hope you guys like this video. If you're liking all this content, please hit that red little button. Follow Hybrid Solution Diagnostic. You gotta support their channel, okay? Way much more great content is coming. Now this one is a bonus episode because of this controversy about all the media's the recall that's going on with the Hyundais. It's happening to most Hyundais, even with some Hyundais here in the Caribbean, that some of them, they're claiming that they're higher standards. No, they're higher standards. They all use the same the same contactors. They were just replacing it with an upgraded one. Okay, so once again, hope you guys like this video and understand. If you have any doubts about this, don't worry, just link in the comments. Okay, we also have, remember, we have an Instagram page where we could have direct contact. So if you have any problems, any doubts with your vehicle, just send me a direct message through Instagram and I will kindly talk to you and see if I can help you, okay, from here. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the very next episode. Bye bye.